So, part of the, by the way, there are still some of the lawyers' documents there. If you don't have that, their memorandum on the spots, please take that. It is really good.
Also, the public.
The public filing is there.
Whatever, yeah.
So, I mean, just put that in the station, and I mean, tells you what not to do. I mean, it's really kind of clear. So, make sure you grab one of those for the spot. But on that topic, I wanted Robert to share some, because the last time we were here, and Rob Taylor, it was interesting how you guys were doing spots. They were a lot shorter, clumped together, and I like that. But I also like the spot of the day. Weren't we talking about that? Or you were the sponsor of the day?
Oh, sponsor of the
Yeah.
day, yeah.
So you can mention that. So I asked Robert just to bring in some of the audio examples of what their spots sound like.
Yeah, so I have two samples. I have a local pizza place, Giuseppe's, the food that you guys ate, and then a car place, a car specialist. And so what I did is I had them produced, and I sent the scripts out. Bill recommended John. What's it called, John? What's a production company? New Life Production. I'm telling you guys, you'd use them too. They're amazing. He is so easy to work with. It is really good. He just moved out of California. He's in Tennessee now, and he's got a professional system, and the spots sound so good. So.
Females too, because I love having females do spots. I love that sound.
Yep. So when you send a spot to him, you just tell him, hey, I want a voiceover, female or male, and he'll do it. So.
Dry or music bed.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so he helps us out with our what are they called? We call it Days of Giving, but I don't call it that anymore. But he'll produce spots for me, so he's really good to work with. And so, so here's a Giuseppe's Pizza.
Programming on the Bridge is sponsored by Giuseppe's, offering pizzas, pastas, subs, and more. 732-607-2066 or online, Giuseppe'sPizzaOldBridge.com. We are thankful for Giuseppe's as co-laborers in spreading the gospel.
So how long was that?
That's about
15,
maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That's it.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. You don't want to alert anybody on the air. It's like, hey, wait a minute, that was a commercial. Calling the FCC, calling it in. So this is pretty short and simple. It's sponsorship. It's thank you for helping us spread the gospel. You know what I'm saying?
And the pizza's on the way.
What's that?
Every time you play it, the pizza shows up?
Exactly. We get free pizza at the door every time.
That's nice.
Okay, so this is a car specialist in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Programming on the Bridge is sponsored by Foreign Car Specialists. Foreign Car Specialists offers a full range of service accommodating both foreign and domestic needs. Foreign Car Specialists, 845-318-1225 or online at foreigncarspecialistsny.com. The Bridge thanks Foreign Car Specialists for partnering with us in providing solid Bible teaching.
So I change it up. I don't always say the same thing, we thank them for helping us spread the gospel. I change that last tag differently so it doesn't sound the same all the time. But what I do is when I sell sponsorships, I let the client know this is the way we produce the spots, because sometimes they don't understand between non-com and commercial, and so they're thinking I'm going to be, saying all kinds of stuff. But most of the time, and I've never had anybody say, well, I don't want to do it then if you're going to do it that way. They understand. They still get a plug. They still get promoted. We put them on our website, and so that helps them understand that, it's going to sound like this. It's not going to be your typical commercial you hear, on a non-com or on a commercial station. And so I've never had any issues with it, and that's what we do.
The few that we do and have done in the past, I write the script and then I'll send it to John. But I always give the sponsor what it sounds like before it goes on the air. But I really don't give them options. I just say this is what we've done. The tag that we've used in the past, and this is why we take from everybody, that this is a business partner of WXMB. So we add that business partner, and so it's like, they're helping spread the gospel in the Grand Strand or in the Myrtle Beach area. So I love that. We're always bringing them back to, hey, this is how they're helping us get the word out. Yep. And I mean, it's kind of exciting to be a sponsor.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have again, Pat and I, we're full on our tasks, so we don't have anybody that is really pushing that. But when people do come to us and do that, it's pretty neat.
We've had good success including scripture and C.S. Lewis quotes and stuff like that. And it makes it a little longer. I still keep it to 29. I keep it to 29 seconds limit. But we might have a scripture verse, thought for the day, something from C.S. Lewis, and then this scripture has been brought to you by such and such sponsor, and we're grateful to them for their support. That's been well received. But at our station, we don't have anyone to do it either, so some people have to practically beg and break down our door if they want to do it. We don't really go after it.
Okay, so I have before we get into questioning, I have a question for you and a question for you. So, Robert, what was different about coming to the bridge? Now, that's kind of easy because K-Wave's big, the bridge is a little smaller. Don't go with that. But what was, that's just too easy. What was different about that experience and then coming here, something that stood out to you?
It was that I came to a non-commercial station.
Okay.
That was big because K-Wave is commercial. And even though there's a KSCW, which is a San Diego station, which is also, that's a non-com, I did most of my work through a commercial station. So that was different. So that was a different approach. So I didn't really swim in the non-com world, though they was there, and I pushed KCW and I did things for KCW, but my main focus was the commercial station.
Does that still affect the way that you are running the station? I mean, do you still have that commercial and you got to kind of push that away a lot? Like, nah, it's not, that's how I used to do it, and I got to really focus on it's different here.
It is. I think, when I came in, obviously I came in with the commercial mindset. I couldn't sell airtime as hard as I did, and I had to be careful in how we, produce spots. And also, I think the way it affected me is that instead of selling spots or programs a month, this is what you give us a month. What I did is, I think part of my commercial mindset, I just broke everything down and said, this is what I charge per spot at this time, at this time, at this time, at this time. So I came in with that mindset. So I guess I came in with that commercial mindset, but stayed within the non-com world, if you will. So because I know a lot of non-com stations will just say, hey, just give me $600 a month and I'll put you on at 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, where I'm thinking, no, let's just break this down. We're in the New York market. Let's just go this way. This is how much you'll pay me from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., from 9 a.m. to this time. And so I broke it up. I have a rate sheet for both sponsorships and for programs.
Okay, so then to build on that, what did you want to do that was new at the bridge that they weren't doing?
Have more live programming, have live on-air staff, because I think, voice tracking is great. We have two good voice trackers, Valerie in the morning, and we have Steve kind of like in the mid-mornings. And then I again, coming from a commercial station where it's 24/7 staffed, everybody's live. I'm like, the live presence is better, right? Because I think it gives the station a more local feeling, and people connect with somebody live at the moment, at that time. So then I worked it out to where I was thinking, okay, well, how do I bring people in here? And so, Lee, who's out there, she's helping out with the coffee. She's the first live on-air announcer that turns on the hot button and goes live between 2 and 6 p.m. And the other thing was a live program, Bridge Bible Talk, right? That was another thing that I see a value in. A call-in show is huge. And being here in New York City and where this station reaches, I mean, we have such a large reach. Let's tap into that and let's see how this program will work out, saying, hey, call us in with any Bible question that you have. And it's been received very well since then.
Okay, Bill. You ready? I actually thought
No.
out a question for you.
I'm not interested.
Wow. Tom Keller, could you please take his place? Okay, so Bill owns a radio empire.
I don't own anything. My church owns.
Yeah. So what was the biggest or what is still even your biggest challenge in owning that radio network? And you know what I mean, the church owning that. What's the biggest challenge of all of that for you?
Manpower.
Not having
Yeah,
staffing.
we don't
that-
have enough room. We don't have enough space. Our church is an old country church. It was built in 1839. We have another building where our classrooms are. We have a stained glass window behind the pulpit here that has a dove in it, and it was installed in 1912 or something, and I tell everybody that comes, we have the original Calvary Chapel dove. It doesn't quite look the same as this, but it's a dove, and they put it there over 100 years ago or thereabouts. So, and we have a school, so that just is growing like crazy. We have no room to put anything. So I would like to have more room, and I'd like to have, more help. But I'm a little timid in terms of, biting off more than I can chew. I could go out and rent a building and have some more space and have some studios. I could easily do that. But I'm not organized enough. I don't have enough help. And, one of these days, maybe that'll change. But I would say manpower and real estate are the biggest issues.
That's an interesting question then. We were always taught, work yourself out of a job, right, in ministry. You're always pouring into somebody else, right? So, Bill, you're not young. What are you?
He used to be my friend.
That's right. It's all done now. Are you thinking about that?
I made a mistake at telling him I have to sign up for Medicare this fall, and he didn't know I was that old.
That's right. What are you thinking about? The transition to somebody that would be able to run Hope FM?
Oh yeah, I think about it, but I don't have any. I haven't had any brilliant brainstorms.
But it's not there yet.
As our church and school and ministry have grown, a lot of people have come forward. Because people tell me all the time, you need to get more help. And I'm like, well, okay, what do you want to do? But people have come forward. It's just that we have more people helping than we ever had, but we have more things going on. And people come to me and say, we want to help you. What can we do? Okay, well, I have to install an antenna. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, I knew that, but what would you like to do? I encourage people to use their gifts. And I read an interview in Christianity Today many years ago it was an interview with a guy named Spiros Zodhiates. He was a Greek guy. He ran an organization called AMG International. Look it up, American Missions to the Greeks. And he got out of Greece. He's dead now, but he got out of Greece and he was smuggling Bibles in to Greece one day in a rowboat on the beach. And some kid came up and said, "Mister, do you have any bread?" And it occurred to him, if I give him some food, maybe he'll read the Bible. And in his career, he said that most mission organizations, when someone comes to them and applies to work, the person has to be interested in what that missions organization is doing. So we do missions in Nigeria. And if you apply to work for us, do you want to work in Nigeria? Because that's what our organization does. In other words, they have a job and they try to fill it. And he said he did the opposite. When someone came to him, he asked them what they did. And then he asked himself, how can I help this person do what they do? So a woman came to him who was a doctor, and he had no medical things going on, but he helped her start a medical clinic somewhere. And he wanted to use the people that came to him in the ways that God had gifted them instead of looking for people that fit into his mold. And I kind of adopted that philosophy 25 or so years ago. And so someone comes in, people come to our church, we really want to get involved. I try to ask them, well, what do you want to do? What's the Lord put on your heart? What are you good at? What do you know how to do? And the Lord sent me, I got another really excellent radio engineer that helps me keep things running. But he didn't send me enough of them. So I try to use people for what their gifts are, and not as many of them as I would like. I suppose if a DJ person walked in the door, then maybe I'd have a reason to have a live on-air person. I would like to do that, but I don't really know where to start.
And you just did a renovation of all your servers and everything. You moved them into the basement. How long did that take? And explain that nice process that you did.
It took about 4 years because we're really slow. We have a saying in our place. We use it all the time. We say, it's on the list. So people say, when are you going to do this? Oh, it's on the list. Oh, but it's really important. It's really important. We got to do it. Okay, it's on the list. Well, when are you going to get to it? Well, when it bubbles up to the top. So we got this bright idea to move our rack room, which looks similar to your rack room here, Robert, except we have no studios. We don't even have a microphone. We have no screens at all, no computer screens in the studio. All the computers are run remote. We log in from home and do what we need to do. We have no microphone. It's all remote controlled. It's all automated, because that's the way I think. And I'm having a hard time getting out of that mold. So it took us about 3 or 4 years to move everything down there. It used to be crowded and overflowing. There were cobwebs growing inside of our racks. There were wires hanging everywhere. I mean, I like wires, but I like them to be neat. So now we have something more like what you have, but it was about a 4-year process. But now it's much more, it's clean, it's neat, it's organized. If there's 4 different networks, there's 8 servers. Everything is, nothing's labeled. So one of my right-hand guys keeps saying, man, if you die, we're going to be in trouble. You don't label anything. And I tell him it's on the list. I am going to label it, you know. So I could, yeah, my biggest problem is I could use more help, but I'm not organized enough to know how to get it.
So what Luke is saying, he's hiring. Anybody here needs a job.
Yeah.
Talk to him afterwards.
The 401k, salary and benefits, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
He's across from Philly.
An hour from here.
Yeah, just south of here a little bit, in the Philadelphia area. We root for the Eagles, where we are, and the Phillies, and the Flyers, and the Sixers. None of that New York stuff.
Okay, so before we get into questions, Robert, is there anything else you just want to communicate, you know, to the conference before we, I mean, we're kind of wrapping it up, Mark and Lloyd coming in, but.
No, I just want to say thank you for coming out here. You know, it's awesome to have you guys here and host this conference this year. And Ron, thank you for, you know, bringing everybody here. I also just want to quickly say just thank you to my staff who has been here morning to the end. You know, Gina, Lee, Dana, Kathleen. These girls have been troopers, just coming in, getting things done. So if you guys thank them on the way out, I mean, they've been a blessing. So appreciate them. But no, I mean, I think, you know, one thing that sticks to my mind, I learned many years ago when I started radio, is that radio, you know, when people hear the radio spots or whatever, radio alerts, but the website converts. And so when we throw stuff on the radio is to alert people of something, and then you push them to somewhere to land, which is usually a website. And just something that just came to my mind, I just wanted to mention.
Which goes to the second point on my list.
But
right?
before we do that, we want to give a shout out to Sally.
Yes.
Who's watching online.
Well, also, I want to say
Sally
Marshall and Lisa
Arizona.
back there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kingman, Arizona.
And
So
Marshall,
hello, Sally.
Marshall and Lisa.
And thank you, Marshall
And Lisa.
and Lisa, for doing
Marshall and Lisa.
sound.
And during the Q&A, if anybody watching online has questions, just post them on the listserver, and we'll try to get
got
them
your
answered.
phone?
Yeah.
Okay. I have one thing that I think I was sitting and listening to Pat do the devotion, and I used to do this a lot, and I'm going to convict everybody. I'm convicting myself. When was the last time we listened to a whole program on our station?
I did that once.
I know. That's the problem. I love all the teachers on our station, but I don't have the time, and I know that, right? That those are our faults.
I
We
listen
don't
to
have-
one between 3 and 4 every day.
It's not fair that you're
So I
part
do.
of it. Yeah. But I used to do that. I used to want to, you know, through the day find a different guy to listen to, and we need to. And this is the point I'm trying to make. Pat's totally correct. We have got to get back to the basic of why we do it, and it's Jesus. And we ourselves. I mean, so I'm a senior pastor. I have to be fed. Right? It's very easy. You know this. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to get into that mode of teaching. Oh, I'm going to read that commentary. I'm doing this, and my devotion time and my this. We have an opportunity to listen to Bible teaching all day long. If you're in the studio, you're doing what? just do your best to have it on. I mean, in my office, which is down the hall from the radio station, I can turn it on, but I often don't. I don't know why. Can I convict myself and everybody else? So let's just do a better job of being discipled by the tool that we are telling other people to be discipled by, right? We have to be partakers of that. The farmer must partake before he can give out. So that's a loving, gentle encouragement to everybody. Listen to some of the programs. So my brother's more in the studio than I am, and he gets to listen to different stuff and tell you know, Ron, did you hear Tom Keller's heresy this week? You know, kind of thing. So, you have anything else you want to share for the conference?
No? You
It's
ask
on
the
the
question,
list.
I'll answer it. Yeah, it's on the list. I'll get to it.
Okay, question time. The difference between a commercial station and a non-commercial station. Well, I mean, you get to do what you want on commercial, but go ahead.
Well, obviously, different license, right? When it comes to commercial and non-commercial. Non-commercial, FCC says you're not making, you're not there for the revenue. You're there just more as a sponsorship that we talked about. Where a commercial station, sky's the limit. When it comes to selling, profit. They leave you. Yeah.
But it gets back to the Communications Act of 1934. The FCC is not allowed to charge fees to non-commercial groups, except in very certain limited circumstances. So they created a certain class of stations that they don't charge fees to, and all the rules are different. So if a commercial station is done on an auction and bidding process nowadays. So if there's a license available, the FCC says there's a license available there, and they take bids, and that goes to the highest bidder. But they're not allowed to do that under law with non-commercial groups, so they had to find a different way to do it. So they set aside frequencies for full-power NCE stations, but they also came out with low-power FM, and under those rules, there's competitive ways that they pick the winner because they can't do an auction. They can't just say, we're going to sell this to the highest bidder. But because they're making it easier for you, they want to make it also harder in terms of what you can put on the air. So you cannot promote for-profit businesses. So you can't run your station as a business like CBS does or NBC does.
Actually, on that same subject, to expand it a little more, one of the big differences for me is you can have a commercial station that's owned by like a church, a nonprofit, and it's really run like a non-commercial station because in the end, it's not about making a dollar for somebody that's an investor, but it goes to the benefit of the Lord and how the gospel is spread. So when you were at K-Way, because I'm not familiar with that station, was that a station that was basically in the business for a profit, or was it owned by a non-commercial entity?
Well, it's under Calvary Chapel Costa Mesa.
Okay.
It's always been under Calvary Chapel Costa Mesa, but the licensing is non-commercial, right, Mark? That's what it is. So it's 107.9 because I think it's on a dial, right? So non-commercials are for what, from 90 point after 90
92.1 and up.
and up is considered commercial. And everything below
And
that is
91.9
non-commercial.
and down is non-commercial. And you can have a commercial station and run it as a non-commercial station if you want to. You can even have a commercial station if you wanted to, and you can tell the FCC, we're going to run this as a non-commercial station. And you can change the category to non-commercial if you wanted to. Yeah, you could stay on 107.9 and you could notify the FCC, we're going to be non-commercial. But later on, if you sell the station, someone can switch it back to be a commercial station again. But nobody says if a church owns a commercial station that they have to run it as a commercial station or that they have to, make a buck or go for the highest bidder. I think K-Wave's trying to do the same thing all of us are trying to do. They just have the flexibility to, do a few more things that we can't do.
Right. Yep.
You just couldn't get away from me.
Hasn't he reached his limit of questions?
Sent me a text last night. He said, I have a question.
You gave
I'm like,
you
"That's
gave him
so
your
wrong."
cell phone number?
I don't know what happened.
But My question is when you're looking for sponsorship or underwriting, are you very specific and I want this to be some type of Christian organization, or are you going out to Joe's Tire Shop who's a local guy?
For me, I'm open to anybody, but I vet them. And here's the thing, just to give you a great example here. Last week I got an email from this lady who wants to promote. She's an author and she has a YouTube presence, and she reaches out to young kids. And when I get an email from somebody like that, I know they don't have a budget for radio. They don't understand what it's like to have a radio campaign to promote their business. And so I don't just take people's money. Well, just give me anything and I'll put you on. I usually say, you know what? I see that you're, first of all, we don't promote authors because I'm not going to go and read every book. And so I usually stay away from that unless it's Pastor Lloyd or some author that is within a program. What's that?
Unless it's an author you know.
Right, yeah, and if it's through the program, like Alistair Begg or whatever, but we just don't, because people write books and you don't know what they write. And so this lady, I said, here's my rate sheet, but I would encourage you, if you don't have the budget for a campaign to promote your YouTube presence and what you do for kids, I would say save the money and use it for print. And she goes, well, this is all I have, right? She had like $100, right? And I said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I told her that. I say this a lot to people. I said, you're not going to get much radio presence, because exposure is what's important. You want to do at least 10 to 15 spots a week, you know what I'm saying, for it to work. And you got to even give it at least 2-3 months, or maybe at least a month for people to catch on. Oh, you're on, because it takes time for people to know this thing's going on, right, what they're doing. And so I said, it's best for you just to use the money for, social media marketing or print. And she says, you know what, thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate that. And that was it. So I didn't jump on it. Oh, okay, we'll work something out for you. And anything else, I vet, I get calls and emails from barber shops, from, like places like pizza places, whatever. It doesn't matter. I still vet them, make sure that they understand. I give them a statement of faith they have to sign off. And so they know this is a Christian radio station, and if you can agree with this, and I'm sure we have a lot of Roman Catholics, and so as long as they abide by our statement of faith and what we're all about and our vision, I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah, you have to vet them. So just remember, anything that you put on your station reflects you. So you're saying, I'm okay with that tire guy. If he's ripping people off, where are they going to go? Yep. They're going to say, why did you put this guy on? He's ripping people off. He's got the fish on the truck, right? But it doesn't mean anything. So you got to be careful with that. You have to be very careful who you put on, as well as your programs. But you have to be careful with that, and you have to vet them.
And also keep in mind, too, that I've also been reached, somebody's called or emailed that I know this is a big national agency and they have the money, right? And you're like, oh, man, they have the money to pay. But then when you look at their clients and who they represent, I'm like, it's not worth it, and I just say, no, thank you.
And I don't care if it's a local business. I think everybody we have on the air right now are believers. But if it's a local business that was friendly to Christians, if it was a pizza place that made good pizza and they're friendly to Christians and they want to support Christian radio, one of the things we tell people right up the bat is you're supporting this Christian radio, and at the end of the day, if you don't get any more customers, you should sleep soundly knowing that you did something good with your money. And if you can't agree with that, then you probably shouldn't do this.
Yeah, you're not always going to get your return on investment. I think you talked about that at another conference, Robert. We tell people your business probably will not go up because of this ad. Are you okay with that? Don't expect that you're coming on and like, my business is going to explode. I mean, it may be your market, but or K-Wave, but the reality is we're telling them you are sponsoring the station. It's part of the kingdom of God. And if you're okay with never getting anybody that walked through there. The other thing that we do is that if you're a sponsor or we're promoting an event, we say this all the time because we've had churches and Mercy Me concerts and all that. We say we get to be where you are, which means I'll show you guys what our yard sign looks in a minute. But our promotional items, a banner or something is in your business that promotes us. We promote you, you promote us. Got that? Because a lot of us, low power FM or whatever, don't have a lot of money. But if you're in a business and your sign is sitting there or a pamphlet or bumper stickers, right? People are walking in, what's WXMB? And it's great advertising for you as well, visibility. So
Can I say something
Yes.
too? This is just I love networking. And so if you're in a local community, what I've done, and I'm out of this now because they've got so much going on, but the city, the Chamber of Commerce, get involved with a business, some kind of men's business kind of league or group, secular I'm talking about. And if you could be part of their membership, that helps you kind of get into the community and get to know all the business owners locally, and then you get a chance to share your station. And there's a brother here at the station, at our church, who's really well known in the community. He got me into this, and I was going to all these meetings. They're secular, right? Sometimes, they meet at a certain pizza place or they meet at a restaurant. They have their cocktails and all. I don't do that, but I'm there meeting people and just kind of getting to know them for the gospel's sake, right? Because then I pass my card out and say, hey, we have a radio station. At least they'll probably tune in and listen. Sometimes I run into Christians. Oh, yeah, I didn't know you guys were around. Yeah, I do. I own a business. And so it gives you some kind of connection, and it helps you network and help you sell airtime to people that you trust, that you meet there. But it really gives you that opportunity to network with people in your community. And so that's huge. If you have that in your community, I say kind of step into that and just kind of see what the Lord will do, how he leads.
I also found that businesses that people need to use do better. So we're not aggressive at all. We don't really push this at all. But I mentioned the other day, we have a dentist on the air, and he came to us. He practically had to beg to come on the station. I have somebody who worked with him to write up the script and everything. He's just overwhelmed with new patients, from what I've heard, because every single person needs a dentist. And a lot of Christian people are happy to try a Christian dentist. And on any given day, if you survey 10 people, probably half of them don't like their dentist. So now we had an attorney who advertised for a year or supported us for a year, and he said he really didn't get anything out of it. Well, most people, when they get up in the morning, don't need an attorney. I mean, once in a while, but not. We have an electrician who's a Christian guy. He does all of our wiring. He has for years. He's a terrific guy. He's on. He doesn't do that well. He supports us because he likes to support it. But again, most people don't need an electrician most of the time. But everybody needs a dentist. Everybody likes pizza. So if you're going to look for businesses, you think about businesses that people really want to go to because you want them to get business from being on your station, because then they'll keep supporting you.
One comment and then a question. To support as far as the advertising aspect, and back in the day we did trades. We had a couple of restaurants around our area, and they all used those little laminated placemat advertisers. You've seen those. You go into a restaurant and it's like a little placemat on your table, and it has a bunch of little advertisements on it, and we were on those. And so every time somebody sat down to eat, like you're saying, like having a banner in the business, it was right there. And I mean, it was there for like forever. Mm-hmm. The follow-up question to you, it has to do with live broadcasting, and it is in Christian radio. I mean, I've got the commercial background, but in Christian radio, what time frame of the day or your broadcast day, if you could only do one live segment, where would you put it?
I would say probably, I say anywhere between 5 and 6 p.m. is a good time frame. I mean, we're doing 3 p.m. Based on our, Pastor Lloyd's schedule, my schedule. We can't come in. I mean, we can, but we're not going to be doing 6 p.m. A lot of people have asked, can you guys move it to 6 or do it 2 hours? So, but 3 p.m. has worked so far. And so, but if I had a choice, I would say probably, 5, 6 p.m. or hot times, that's prime time.
We have some questions online.
So this is from Steve Bassett, and I know Steve.
I
He's
know
in
Steve,
California, isn't
yeah.
he?
He was actually the manager for KCW at K-Way when I was there.
Okay. Well, Steve, Rob
Hey,
sends
Steve,
his
hello.
greeting. Yeah.
Well, he texted
Yeah.
me too, so.
Oh, good. So he says this, concerning communications with the FCC, what things do I absolutely need to have my FCC attorney do, and what things can I do myself for free, such as filing for STAs, etc.? And my answer to that, Steve, would be, you can do anything yourself for free that you want, as long as you know how to do it. So now I know how to do a lot, and I do a lot, but I filed my renewal applications, several of them, and I know what all the questions mean, but I copied and pasted all the answers from one to the other, and I didn't really read them too carefully. And on one of the applications, the answer should have been different than on all the other applications. But because I was copying and pasting, I failed to notice that. I answered them all in one application. I thought, yeah, they're all the same. I copied and pasted because I have 5 full powers. And the one, it was wrong. So that delayed my renewal about 3 or 4 years. It cost me quite a few $1,000s in legal fees. Basically, they accused me of lying to them. And our attorney, Matt McCormick, who was here yesterday, he got it all smoothed out and he said, look, the guy was doing it himself. He's cheap. He should have paid us. So you know what? I decided in the future, I'm just not going to do that anymore because I don't want the hassle. And I think a good answer to that question is, if you know how to do it, there's no law that says you ever need to use an attorney. But sometimes it can cost more money to fix up the mess than it would have been just to do it right to begin with. And with these new issues and programs list, the law firm that we use, which is Matt McCormick, they have paralegals that cost a lot less per hour. And one of the things I like during a renewal process, here in New Jersey, we do the renewals next year, but I did my Maryland renewals last year. And one of the things I like is they'll review your public file for you ahead of time. They make sure everything was filed on time, everything was done properly. They double check everything. I know it's already done right because I have somebody that does it and she double checks it and then I double check it, but I still like the law firm doing all that because now if the question is answered wrong, I can blame them and it's their problem. You guys want to add anything to that about?
No, I just think, there are some costs to radio that are just costs to radio, and one of them is the lawyer. I mean, I just think it's wise. A fool is his own client, his own lawyer, and it's just part of doing business, I think. So.
Keeping up with all the latest changes from the FCC.
Yeah, and the lawyers know all that stuff, and sometimes people have said to me, is it really worth it? And I say, hey, having a radio station is worth it. So when we switched to Fletcher, Hilden, Hildreth in 2002, we were still pursuing our first station, and Harry Martin was our attorney at that time. And when I first met him, my previous attorney said, oh, I don't know if you really want to use them or not. They're a really expensive firm. But I thought, well, I want to have it done right. And Harry Martin said to me in 2002, or maybe it was 01, but he said to me, I can help you get your radio station, and in the process, you're going to buy me a new car. And I'm not joking. And I think we did. But it was worth it because we got this station, and it's priceless. Just one other question that came in online from Sally. Hello again, Sally.
Hi, Sally.
She thanked us for giving her the shout out. She said she's really blessed. Now, we'd be blessed if she would actually come here. Yeah. But anyway, she said, along with that thought on comm versus non-comm, we are on the dial at 98.7 and are non-comm. So is the 92 on dial and up commercial a normal, but like us, are there exceptions? So the answer to that question is non-commercials at the bottom 20 channels, 88.1 to 91.9. The other 80 channels are commercial, but there are isolated exceptions to that rule.
We're that. We're 101.5.
Are you?
Yeah.
But no, but you're
That's
an
all
LPFM. So LPFM is irrelevant. LPFMs can be anywhere, and they're always non-commercial, and they can be on any frequency. But for a full power station, there are some places where some frequencies have been designated to be non-commercial frequencies. So in her case, she might be one of them, where the FCC said, in this town or in this city, on this frequency, we're going to make that non-commercial. And there are times where the FCC allows you to petition for that. So let's say in a town somewhere there's no non-commercial stations, but there's a commercial frequency available. There are opportunities where you can ask the FCC, please designate this frequency non-commercial so that non-commercial people can apply for it. If you do that and they designate it non-commercial, then it's going to be non-commercial forever. If you, like K-Wave decided tomorrow they wanted to become non-commercial, they could switch back. But if you get the license as a non-commercial, and the FCC has allowed that in places where they just don't have enough frequency. So there's not many of them, maybe 100 or so in the whole country. But the general rule is, as we said before.
Tom?
Yeah, there's a famous saying in business, you've probably heard this, but John Wanamaker, I think, said, I know half my advertising isn't working, I just don't know which half. And in our church, we've published to the church on Sunday mornings a list of all the advertisers and said, please tell them that you heard their business on the radio. Because when I was in business, it was very, very rare that anyone would come in and say they saw anything that we did advertising on. My point is, if just 2 or 3 people go in and say to the owner, I heard your spot on the radio, it has a huge impact because they don't get that from placemats. No one comes in and says that. I'm telling you, it doesn't take 20 people. 3 people is enough to convince that person that this is money well spent.
And the same thing applies for teaching programs. You know, I found out a long time ago, if you put on the big national outfits and you're charging them money, like we do, and Robert knows this, they're all using Microsoft Excel, and they're tracking how much they're getting versus how much they're spending. And they whine a lot. We're paying you too much money and we're not bringing enough in. They're great at that. But if you put on a local church and 2 or 3 people go into that church and say, oh, Pastor, we love hearing you on the radio. That guy's, he's set for life. He'll never come off of your station. So I would encourage you to look for other churches in your area. Now, we're blessed because our signal reaches so many Calvary chapels. I think the Bridge does too. K-Wave does also. On all the Calvary chapels in our area, they want to be on the radio, but you may not have other Calvaries in your area. But look around to see if you have other Bible-believing churches that you might feel comfortable putting on the air, because if you put them on and people come to their church, they're going to be a customer for life.
Okay.
Maureen, go ahead.
My question is, what is the process of going from an LPFM to a non-com full power, and not just in terms of FCC filings? What else is involved?
Well, there is no process to go from LPFM to full power. An LPFM can never change to a full power. So you can apply for a license to get your own full power station, but you don't actually convert the LPFM to a full power. So you can only apply for those licenses during filing windows that the FCC designates. It used to be you could apply for any kind of license any day of the week, any week of the year, anytime you wanted to. But for reasons only known to the FCC and God himself, the FCC changed that process in the year 2000. And they said, we're only going to accept applications during filing windows, which are 1-week periods. And from the year, usually, from the year 2000 to the year 2021, there's only one-week filing window to apply for full power stations, and it was in 2007. The window coming up next month will only be the second window, or 2 months in November, it'll only be the second filing window for full power stations since the year 2000. And the next one might not come till we're all dead. So you just never know when they're going to do it. So really the process is, when there's a window, you look to see what's available, and if you can find something that would be better than your Lpfm, then you can apply for that. You have to agree, if you get it, that you're going to forfeit your Lpfm. What wasn't mentioned yesterday by Matt is that he said you had to forfeit your Lpfm, but what you could do is you could set up another organization in your town with a bunch of your friends. You can't have any common board members, but you could set up another organization with some of your friends, and you could give them the Lpfm, and maybe they use it for some purpose that complements what you're doing. If you're running all teaching, maybe they run all music or something. So you can find a home for your Lpfm license if you're willing to set up another organization to do that. You just can't have any common board members between the two of them. But so getting back to your question, the process is you have to apply for a new license. And the fact that you already have an LPM, that doesn't help you at all. When the filing window comes, you apply, and hopefully you get something better if there's something. And Bob Moore is the guy to ask about that. And if anybody needs his contact information, he wasn't able to be here. He wanted me to give anyone that's interested his contact information, and he'll work with you to see what's available in your area.
Okay, and how about equipment and facilities? Can you use your current?
You can certainly use everything in your studio for the studio of a full power, and you really wouldn't need to make many changes. You might need a change in your EAS system, but probably not. But you're going to need, more than likely, you're going to be on a different tower, and more than likely you're going to need a new tower, a new antenna, a new transmitter, and everything at the tower site, because it's very unlikely that it's remotely possible, but highly unlikely that anything at your tower site would be helpful. So if you set up a separate group to take over your Lpfm, you could let them use your tower site. They have to buy their own studio equipment, and here you are, you can use the same studio equipment, same automation system, same programs and everything. You just need a new tower site.
Along with that, the question I have is, going for for a full power, what is the typical time frame from application to actually getting it? I realize there's a setup, you got all the equipment to set up and all that, but just if we started today filing, what is the time like that you see?
Well, if you apply in the November filing window, and by the way, if anybody wants to do that, you need to do it like today. I mean, you need to start working with Bob Moore immediately, because there's a lot of hoops to jump through. You need to do a lot of things, but when the FCC gets all the applications, the first thing they're going to do is put them all in a hopper, and they're going to see which ones are not competing with any other application. So if you applied on 98.1 in your city and nobody else applies anywhere near there, then that's called a singleton. There's no competing applications. In 2007, when I applied 7 applications, one of them was a singleton, and I got the license in less than 3 months. If however, there's competing applications, then the process can go on for many years. The longest process I was ever involved in, it went for 8 years, and I lost. But so there's just no guarantee. If just 2 people are competing, when Ron did his, it was him and the Chamber of Commerce. And he went down to the Chamber of Commerce, and they didn't even remember they had applied. And they said, no, we don't even want that. So they withdrew, and he got his license. So immediately. So sometimes it can be really fast. Now, I was competing in Cape May, New Jersey, and somewhere in Pennsylvania with 2 different Catholic groups. And I said to them, well, I'll pull out here if you pull out there. And then you can get one, and I can't get one. And the Catholic people said, well, we're 2 different Catholic groups. So if one of us pulls out, we lose everything. And I said, well, okay, but you both have the same, you're both pushing the same line. You both have the same thing. So if one of you wins, the other one, you should be happy that at least one of them won. So whatever you can negotiate, if you can get people to go away or pay off their expenses, but there's just no guarantees. You can spend a lot of money. It could go on for years. You could get nothing at the end of it.
Well, just to carry on with that, how long,
Well, once they say yes, you want to do
You have
that?
3 years to build.
That's
So-
from when you get the license.
But I don't know what it would be, when do you think they would have to give up their LPFM?
Not until they're ready to push the switch.
When you're on the air?
Yeah.
So you could run your LPFM still, get, work on the next 3 years of money and towers and equipment, and then, yeah, you have to surrender that LPFM. Or do what Bill said, give it to somebody else.
So when you get that license, it has a date on it, or it's called a construction permit. When you get that construction permit, you have to be on the air within 3 years, or you're going to lose it. And there's just about no reason in the world why they will extend that. It almost doesn't matter. I mean, there are, in fact, some very highly remote and unlikely reasons why they might extend it, but I wouldn't plan on it. You have 3 years, and on the day you're ready to turn that on, you have to pull the plug. You can throw the big switch, kill your LPFM, and put your full power on. And getting back to money and fundraising, when you apply for a full power station, you sign a statement that says, we have all the money we need today, either in the bank or promised to us. The bank made a commitment to loan us the money. You have to have guaranteed financing lined up to build the station and run it for 3 months with no income. Now, they don't actually look at your bank statement, but that's what you're signing a statement that we have the money and we're prepared to do this because the FCC does not want to give you the license and then you go off and you can't raise the money and then you lose it. And that's happened to people that I've heard of. People have lost out because they didn't have the money, and well, that means they lied when they applied for the station because you're supposed to have the money when you apply.
The biggest thing that I heard when I was, and this was from Bill and from everybody, is radio's expensive. Don't expect a nickel and dime radio. It always costs money. There's always things that are involved in there. There's lawyers, so your church has to know that it's a ministry. And I know, Maureen, you guys know that. So, but these churches get into it, or guys are selling LPFMs. I remember when that window, and they're like, yeah, just get it. But they're not telling them the actual cost. It's going to cost you 25 at a minimum to 50,000 to do it. And there's, Jesus said to count the what? Cost. And I think sometimes churches get into it and they're like, well, we didn't know. Well, that's your due diligence. And unfortunately, some of these guys that were peddling that stuff breaks my heart. Because I go in and try to fix station. I'm like, why do you even have that equipment? You don't need that. Well, they were sold that because it was radio again. And yeah, it's a process, but once you get that, if nobody is competing with you, you'll get it pretty quick, just like we did, and then 3 years to build it. So, Kevin.
I wanted to follow up on Maureen's question because in Cumberland, we originally were supposed to be an LPFM. Then God opened the door to buy a full power station, so I can comment a little bit on. All the studio stuff you have now is the same. Everything, including whatever you're using to connect to your current tower site, you can use it all. You can use your EAS. You just have to go in and configure it to your new station for the logs. The only thing that you're really going to have to change is your transmitter, because you're going to need a more powerful transmitter, more than likely, and the antenna to match with it. And if you have any questions or anything I can do to help assist for any station that does get a full power coming from an LPFM, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than willing to help in any way I can.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else? Because it's about 10 o'clock. Coffee out, coffee in.
I want to put a plug in for Mike Smith, if you don't mind. So my good friend Mike Smith is another electrical engineer like I am. He showed up at my church and right when I needed him and built the station. He now lives in Lynchburg, Virginia area and goes to that Calvary chapel down there. But his specialty is radio, computers, networking. He helps a lot of churches with their networks, firewalls, remote access, studio management stuff. He maintains all of our websites and does a lot of security work. I know he's actually running at least one other Calvary Chapel radio station remotely because they lost their radio guy. So if you need professional computer help, he's the smartest computer guy I know, and I know a lot of computer people. He's available. I can give anybody that you need his contact information. When Delta, Pennsylvania Church just brought their programming in-house, their production in-house, they needed to set up an FTP site. Mike Smith set up and runs the FTP sites for Genesis and his productions. And if you've noticed in the last couple of years, their FTP sites are more reliable. That's why. And he's now doing the one, he did the one for Delta, Pennsylvania. If you need help like that, then, please let me know. I'll put you in touch with him.
Yeah, just to do quick something here, I got a couple, is it two pictures, two photos, Marshall, for the BBT? Six, okay. So what I want to show you guys, and going off the investment, that, radio is an investment. One thing I'm really blessed and appreciate is Pastor Lloyd understands that very clearly, that, owning a station, the church, and what we do here, you want to make sure that content is good, and he's all for, quality, and I appreciate that. And so when it comes to that, like they say, content is king, right? You don't want to just throw stuff out. The station I used to work for back in 2007 or so, upstate New York, WJIV, it was terrible. It was a big station, Capital District, but they had, audio that was bad. Some programs came in great, others, and it was just, he didn't care, and it was just messy. But before we did Bridge Bible Talk, before we went to where you guys saw where we're at today, I wanted to show you some photos of when we started this in the middle of the pandemic and how we put it together once a week. Once a week. So go ahead, Marshall, let's go off with the first picture. So this is the setup. It was right here on the stage. That's Patty Height. We brought her on to talk about the LGBT community and share her testimony. We had questions on that. That's Pastor Ray Dash in Newark. And then Pastor on the right was another one that we had him on there. And this is just us doing it. We had a TV in the back, and we would just answer questions, and we go back and forth. We would take the calls that we pre-recorded, and also, questions that came in via email. That's the previous school director. We had him on talk about education. So we did all of these different guests that came on board. That's the back there. Marshall and his crew back there doing it from the back. So we just kind of put it together once a week. We did a simple stage setup, and then we recorded it, and then we re-aired it on Saturday nights. And so this is kind of like what we were doing. We just did it right up on the stage. While our studios were being renovated and built, we just did it right here, and it worked really, really well. And, we were able to plug it into the station because we have a live service that takes place here. So we did the same concept for the radio when we did this on Saturday night. So that's what we did. Just I wanted to show you guys that what it looked like before we went into the the studio that we're in now. And we do it Monday to Friday now.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else? You can, but you can only get back what you invested into it. You cannot make a profit. So your antenna, if you kept all your receipts. Let's say it cost you $25,000. You could only sell it for that. You're not allowed to make a profit. So, like I said the other day, it depends. Right, Mark? You have a little bit of staff. I just don't have that. I couldn't ask my brother or myself to go into a full power right now. I don't see that. We, 3 years ago, purchased 78 acres 4 hours away from us to build a youth and adult retreat center. And that's another huge step. I'm there every week, drive 4 hours up to past Spartanburg to do that. So, I've always wanted a full power.
South Carolina is that big?
Yeah, it's that big. It takes you 4 hours to get to the top of, and that's it. You run out of it. You're in North Carolina then. And
sounds like your next investment should be a small plane.
Well, that's what my son says. And then I said, who's going to fly it, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to fly it." I'm like, "Yeah, you're going to go take the pilot's license." And
Tom will come down and teach him.
we got a young kid. He's like 12 years old. He's taking pilots. And I'm like, I'm going to get this kid to start flying me up there. So
By the way, Tom did get his low power FM buying it from someone else, and you know, you can only sell it for what you put into it. So it was a great. I remember when he called me up, it was a great deal. I said, "Yeah, get it right away before he changed his mind."
depreciated assets. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, technically, you can't sell the license. You can sell the value of the equipment that goes with it. So they buy your equipment, you can give them the license. So you're not going to get a lot of money out of your LPFM if you sell it. But by the way, the opposite also works. If you know a church that would like to get a radio station and there's an LPFM near them, you might ask those people running it, hey, if you ever want to sell your LPFM, we'd be interested in taking it over. Lloyd Pooley didn't mention this yesterday or the day before when he was up here, how he was talking about on Monday night how he bought WRDR. He probably doesn't remember, but I tried to buy that station a couple of years before that because I was looking to apply, I was looking to buy to get into something. It was too far from me, you know, but I was just looking for anywhere near there, and I called them, and they weren't interested. A couple of years ago, they changed their mind, and Lloyd came along and so anybody who has a station in your area, that's another way to get a full power. Look for the full power non-commercial stations in your area. See if any of them might be for sale. Do not call the station and ask the person who answers the phone if your station's for sale. Because if they're interested in selling their station, the bookkeeper doesn't know that, and the receptionist doesn't know that. So, you know, if you find a non-commercial station in your area, look on the FCC records, find out who's the president of the corporation. You get their email off the FCC's website, and you send them an email. We get emails like that all the time. You probably do too. Is this for sale? So there's nothing wrong with asking. And because this is America, and eventually everything gets sold, and you know, you might be able to get a station by buying it for a reasonable price, and you don't have to go through all the hassle of applying for it yourself. Also, if you buy an existing station, when you buy it, on the day you buy it, you know how far the signal goes. Whereas if you build your own station, you may be surprised or disappointed. But if you buy an existing station, you already know everything about it. So you know what you're getting.
One last question.
Can you keep your call letters when you change over?
Yes. Yeah, you can make that all part of the thing. You would drop, if you're an LP, you have -LP at the end. If you went to a full power, you'd lose the -LP at the end, but you could keep the same call letters.
I don't like you.
I have to fly back with him.
Wow.
Hopefully he gets all the questions out now.
Yeah, or else he's just tired and he falls asleep, right?
Right.
You're suffering from
I'm not taking any drinks from him on the plane. So on the follow-up on your question, if we could keep the call letters, we still have to move our radio dial
Yeah,
number,
your
though.
frequency is different.
The frequency will be different, so would there be an advantage to doing that then? I mean, like you've changed half of your...
The advantage of getting a full power?
Well, no. Well, I know the advantage of getting a full power, but keeping your call letters...
Yeah, it's
are
branding. Everything's branding, right? So the people already know your call letters or your tagline.
Right.
You know, the bridge. It really doesn't really matter what the frequency is. It's the bridge. It's K-wave. Everybody knows that. We don't have a tagline. We're just WXMB because MB is Myrtle Beach. But if you have your tagline, you're just moving that to another frequency. It's just branding.
Okay.
So one, Mark, I can't talk to you anymore. No. I'm just joking.
A couple of years ago, before I got the station that I'm at now, there was a low power permit that was given out by the FCC in actually a little bit of location than we are. And I know now that it's coming up on their 3-year period and they haven't finished or built anything yet. If I managed to convince them that they were not going to complete that, do you, in your opinion, do you think the FCC, if they kind of gave me the license or transferred the license to us, that they would give us a new 3-year window to?
You can't be on the board of a full power and a low power station.
I understand, and I think I could create a new board through
Yeah,
the people that are interested?
You can transfer that.
Oh, I get that, but do you think
Yeah.
they'd continue the 3-year, new 3-year period for
No,
us?
absolutely not. Nope, they will not do that. But if you can acquire it and get it built within that 3-year period, you can do that. They're not going to give you an extension.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark, you're last. And I mean last.
What was my question? Anyway,
Yeah, what's your
is
question?
there a list of LPs that we can get in our area? Or high power?
I mean,
Is
I
there a
would
list?
just have Bob Moore do a search of your area. So.
He's
when-
done one for us already yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, when I asked him about non-com, by the way, I did not know that you could switch in the commercial band to a non-con. I don't know if Bob did a search of the commercial band for me then. But he knows.
Yeah,
He'll-
that wouldn't work for you.
Yeah, he's got a list. My problem is I've always wanted to have my 1015, which is really clean. There's no one around for a long time. I would love to turn that into something full power. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But Bob will tell you everything about your area, every station, that's in wherever you're living, that 25-mile radius or whatever.
So if you want to know if there's a low power station near you, he can give you a list of the existing stations. If you want to ask about what full power non-commercial stations cover my area, he can give you that information also. And then you can go to the FCC's website, get the contact information, see if any of them might be for sale. Real estate agents knock on your front door once in a while and say, would you like to sell your house? I mean, most of the time the answer is no, but once in a while somebody might say yes. And so if you want to pursue that, Bob Moore can give you the data that you can use. But it's going to be a lot like selling copiers. Most people are going to say no.
And let me just say this. If you use Bob Moore, please send him a check. In the past, that hasn't happened to Bob. So a workman is due his labor.
Yeah.
Please send, I don't care if he just did a little bit of, he's not going to tell you what the amount oftentimes is, but bless him because that's what him and his wife live off of.
Yeah.
So bless Bob Moore he has done a ton for Calvary Chapel. A ton. And we just
It's
need
not
to,
an exaggeration to say we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Bob Moore. We just wouldn't be.
A couple of years ago, Bob was complaining about, I don't know if he meant it, but he was complaining about his laptop. And I'm like, I'm buying him a laptop. And I sent it to him just to bless him because of all the work that he's done for me and everybody else in Calvary. So if you use Bob Moore, send him some money.
Just make it out to the Bridge LLC. Oh, wait.
But isn't that one way you can do it as well as, because we have two LPs? Could we get
You have
another?
a translator.
A translator, yeah.
An
get
LP
another
can have two
translator.
translators,
Oh, just two? Okay, thank you.
but that's hard to get. The translators are hard to get. We tried to pick up a couple of this year, but they were the wrong ones. And Bob said they wouldn't work, but an Lpfm is allowed to have two. So sometimes, maybe you don't want to go down the full power, keep your Lpfm, get a translator that's 250 watts at whatever height, and it'll blow your Lpfm away with its reach, but you're not operating as a full power. But you've got an amazing reach because you have two translators. Don't always think that the full power is the way to go. There are creative ways in LP utilize those. You have a translator, don't you, Tom? You have two. You have
Three.
one you borrow.
Yeah, you can be on other people's translators, and there's no limit to that. So if somebody has a translator, they'll put your Lpfm on that. You can be on 10 translators or 100 if they'll put your Lpfm on their translator. You're allowed to own two yourself.
And Matt said that translators were coming up next, right? Yeah. So, that's what we're waiting for. That's what I'm waiting for is to see. But I actively went out and who is selling in my market? My market is saturated. Myrtle Beach is one of the most saturated market, like a tiny market. You wouldn't think it, but there's just nothing there. All of the big guys there, and they all own 5 stations there. It's crazy. And the money to buy something in Myrtle Beach is unbelievable. multi-million dollars because of the tourism in our area. So the only way that I'm expanding is by translators coming up, if that's what God has for us. That's the only way that we're getting into that, unless I get Lloyd's, credit card and I buy something. So,
Just a clarification, when he was talking about that the other day, the next window coming up is the low-power TV.
yeah, he said TV,
the
the
translators
full-power
after that.
TV, and then the translators are coming up.
Right.
But
Keep-
it's
keep
been a
in mind,
while.
That's all speculation.
True.
Nobody really knows what the FCC is going to do, including the FCC. So right now, here's what we know. There's a full power window in November. After that, Matt McCormick was speculating the TV one would be next.
What's
You'll
the
know when they announce it.
What's the application process, just briefly, for if you want to go after a translator? Is it similar to like searching for fitting in an LPFM or?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. LPFMs and translators, the proper engineering term is shoehorn. So you go out and you find a frequency and you figure out, or using an engineer like Bob Moore, you find a frequency and then you make a proposal to the FCC. We want to build an LPFM or a non-com or a translator. We're going to use this frequency, this tower, this you do all the work. You give them a complete proposal of everything. It can't interfere with anybody else. It's got to follow all the rules. And then if there's competitors, they go through a process to pick who the winner is going to be. That's completely different than commercial, where the FCC says, we have this frequency available in Poughkeepsie, start bidding. And they take bids. But non-commercial, they let you jam them in anywhere you can jam them in if you can make it work. And that's what Bob Moore is really good at. He's really good at that.
He will put a tower in places that you wouldn't think a tower could go. So